Hi, I'm Alan Miller, editor of The Dispatch.
And I'm Glenn Scheller, Editorial Page Editor of The Dispatch.
And we're here to talk about the editorial endorsement by The Dispatch for President of the United States. First, we'll tell you that we have endorsed Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump. We found that she is qualified and he is unfit. That should not be a surprise to anybody who has followed our editorial page over many months, because in December of last year, we wrote an editorial that said that Donald Trump was unfit to be president, and that opinion has not changed. We want to talk a little bit about how we arrived at that decision, and note that in the editorial itself, we begin by saying, like millions of Americans, the Dispatch editorial board has asked the question many times: how in a nation of more than 300 million people did we end up with two such disliked and distrusted candidates for president?
I've characterized this race to some of my friends and colleagues as it's as if the two parties held a contest to see who could put forth the least attractive candidate, and the Republicans won. And the problem with Donald Trump is that he's not really a Republican. He doesn't represent Republican values. He's not a champion of limited government. He's certainly not a champion of free trade. And just in terms of civility and decency, he doesn't pass muster.
You're probably wondering how the editorial process works. We have an editorial board which is made up of 6 people, including me, Glenn, and the publisher, and 3 opinion writers. We have wrestled with this over many months. Obviously, we finally needed to make a decision, and we decided that we wanted to wait to do this until after we had seen the 2 candidates in the first debate. And we also wanted to publish this before early voting began in Ohio this coming week.
The difficulty for the editorial board is how do you make this decision? Do you declare both candidates as inadequate to the job? If you do that, you give up any chance to influence the outcome of the election. Do you advocate for a third party? If you do that, you might inadvertently help the candidate that you really don't want to win the election. Or do you simply face reality and choose the candidate who is least flawed? And ultimately, that's the decision that the board came to.
Well, we also decided that the person we picked, and Hillary Clinton, is also the most qualified. She has experience in the U.S. Senate and as Secretary of State. We note in the editorial that she is not averse to compromise, which unfortunately has become a dirty word in Congress, where not much of anything gets done anymore because of the gridlock there. She is someone who understands the art of compromise and can carry that out. We also appreciate that she is known to and knows most of the world leaders because of her role as Secretary of State, and we believe that she would represent us well on that world stage. I would like to say something a little more broadly about the responsibility of the newspaper to produce this editorial endorsement. It's deep in tradition for newspapers to do editorial endorsements, but we do it less because of tradition and more because we feel it's a civic responsibility. To Glenn's point about picking a candidate, we feel that to go only part way, as some other newspapers have done, to say it's you should not vote for Trump is not doing what we're asking you to do, and what we're all asked to do as members of this group of voters that will pick the next president, and that is to make a choice. We also feel that it's our civic duty to do this because as a newspaper, we feel strongly that one of our roles is to either start or be part of the conversation around important issues in our community and in our nation. And to either not endorse or only go part way, in my view, would be a cop-out. Because we make editorial comments on issues large and small every day of the year, and to not make a decision and stand firm on that decision, in this case, would be the ultimate cop-out.
We know everyone won't be happy with our decision, but we sincerely tried to make the best decision we could.
We don't take lightly that this is the first time in 100 years that we as a newspaper have endorsed a Democrat. The last time this happened was in 1916 when the Dispatch endorsed Woodrow Wilson for president. We also want to note that the sale of the paper a year ago had no bearing on this decision whatsoever. It's an independent local decision. There was no directive from corporate executives outside of this office. It was a decision by the editorial board of this newspaper, and there were no outside influences on that whatsoever. In this year of deep polarization and consternation over this election and the candidates, there's been much talk about media bias, which unfortunately I find that some people see in places where it clearly does not exist. I want to make clear that there is a clear, distinct line between the editorial board and the editorial writing staff and the staff of this newspaper that covers the news, and that this decision by the editorial board also will not influence our coverage and has not influenced our coverage. We appreciate the opportunity to be part of the conversation, and we urge all of you to please vote.